in that bank. Banks have more than one type of savings or checking account available to choose from. And you can also choose to have a joint account with other persons. So if you're in there with your spouse, your partner, okay? So if you look at the three types of accounts, savings accounts are used to store your extra money and accumulate money from interest. So a savings account typically pays you a higher interest rate than a checking account because it's intended for what? Savings, okay? So they want you to keep your money in a savings account. The bank is going to use that money because they're going to lend it out to individuals or companies, charge them an interest rate. So they're going to pay you a little bit more on a savings account. Then you have a checking account, which is used for your day-to-day needs, such as paying bill, getting cash, and making transactions. And then you can have a combination account, which is a combination of the two, okay? So things to consider when deciding what bank account to choose, okay? One of the things about banks, anybody here work for a bank? Good, so I can talk openly about banks. Okay. You ever notice when you go to any city in the world, wherever you're from, the biggest buildings are what? Downtown. What are they? Banks and insurance companies. There's a reason for that, okay? Banks charge fees. Royal Bank has made more than $1 billion of profit. It's based on fees that they charge us and also interest that they get from the things. So when you're looking at a bank account, you need to look at the fees. You need to look at what transactions are included in the fees and how many, because some of them will say you're going to get 10 free transactions a month, and then after that, you're going to pay $9 a transaction. So if you don't look at the fine print, guess what? You're paying those transaction fees. Do I need to have a minimum balance to have a monthly fee? So some of them say you're going to have no fees, but you have to maintain a balance of whatever, $1,000. How much will I pay for extra transactions? How much will I pay if I use a bank machine from a different bank? This is how they make money. Okay? Most people don't care about the fees. Chances are they're not looking at their statement. But if you look at the fees that you're paying over a year, if you ever did that audit, you'd have a better appreciation about what kind of an account you're in and whether you're making the right decisions on that. Okay? You can choose the type of account you want depending on how much money you keep in an account and how many transactions you typically do every month. The amount of the money in your account is known, of course, as the balance. Banks will often take money from your account to pay for services, as we talked about, which is the fee. Some banks have low fee accounts. You'll see that, right? Anybody know one of the banks that has that?
Oh, like a notification?
No, low fee account. Yeah, so BMO will have it. President's Choice, like if you go to Superstore, they have really low fees, okay? If you keep a certain amount of money in the account, which is referred to again as the minimum balance. Okay, so types of bank accounts. Some banks have banking packages or special offers for newcomers to Canada. For example, a bank may have a special offer where there are no monthly account fees for newcomers for, let's say, 6 months, and then you have to start paying, right? Some branches also have more tellers that speak different languages or have ATMs with more language options. Now, banks will, if you watch TV, you'll notice that there's a lot of bank commercials, right? Banks will spend millions of dollars on advertising. Why?
No, they need to appeal to their clients.
Right, to get clients. But think about when they get a client. When they get a client, so let's say as a newcomer, right? You see an ad and there's no fees for the first 6 months. Hey, you go there, fine, okay? So you open up an account there. Maybe your kid opens up an account there, and then you want to get a loan. So what do? You go to the bank, right? You get a loan. Now you have a loan there for whatever, 5 years. And then guess what? You want to open up an RRSP, a registered retirement savings plan, to reduce your taxes, because you learned a little bit about reducing your taxes. So what do? You go to the bank and you open an RRSP. Then you hear something about a tax-free savings account, a TFSA. What do? You go to the bank, okay? Then eventually you're going to buy a house. What do? You go get a mortgage, okay? Then you want to set up a fund for your kids' education. So you set up an RESP, a registered education savings plan. What do? You go to the bank. So do you see how it's so attractive to get one person as a client, because you typically stay with the bank for the course of your life, okay? It's no different with insurance. And all you have to do is look at all the insurance commercials on TV. Because you're worth a lot. We're worth a lot to them. Okay? Because typically you don't change your banks every year. Okay?
Not like your car.
Not like your car. Right? So when you're making that type of, getting in that type of relationship financially, you want to make sure that you're in the right accounts, that you're paying the right fees. Okay? So again, they have special promotions in that. So let's talk about credit unions and Caisses Populaires. You've heard of credit unions? Service Credit Union here, okay? So each province has different credit unions. Okay, now a credit union, and in Quebec, Caisses Populaires, are different from banks and trust companies. People who open accounts at credit unions or Caisses Populaires become members, and they are considered owners of the credit union. Okay? The members can vote on how they want the credit union or Caisses to operate, and credit unions pay their members a dividend with their profits. Okay? So they're different than the major banks. The major banks have shareholders, right? So if you have a share in Royal Bank, Toronto Dominion, okay, you own part of that bank, you're going to get what's called a dividend. People heard of a dividend before? Okay. So a dividend is a payout of some of the profits of a company to its shareholders, because you own part of that. Okay? And companies don't have to pay dividends, but they usually reward their shareholders with a dividend. Okay? Banks are companies that do that. Credit unions, they pay out a dividend to the members. Okay? Big difference. And the dividend that you get is dependent on two things. One is their profit that they made, but also how much business you've done with the credit union. So if you have your mortgage, your loan, your all of that, you're going to be making more of a dividend from a credit union. So that's a bit different than obviously a bank. Okay? So that's one decision that you should probably make on your own. Okay, now the disadvantage of a credit union is that if you move to another part of Canada, you're going to have to close your account here at the credit union and open up there. But if you were with RBC, you all know that you can go to Goose Bay, Labrador, and find an RBC there, and it's seamless, right? So there's an advantage and disadvantage, but that's the thing, okay?
Can you provide an example of how the dividend works?
Yeah, so again, every company at the end of the year, and when you take level 2 and we learn how to pick stocks, we learn this. Every company has an income statement, and it has their revenue less their expenses equals a net income, okay? And from that net income, like I said, the company can decide if it wants to pay out all of the profits to their shareholders or some of it. Usually it's some of it because they keep some of it for their own operation, right? So if you own a share of, let's say, Royal Bank, okay, you own one share, and they say that we're going to pay a dividend of $2 per share, you would get $2 that year from Royal Bank. Think about it, it's almost like rent. Okay, if you own the property, right? You make money, okay? You're getting a certain amount, hopefully every month. Think about it that, okay? So, with the credit union, going back there, they do the same thing. Income, revenue minus expenses equals net income. But now they're going to distribute all of that to their members. And it's based again on the amount of business that you do with the bank. So the more business you do, the more your dividend payment's going to be. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah, and if you think about it, credit unions really started in rural communities, especially with farmers, because they didn't have time to go to the cities to the banks. So they started these what were called credit unions. And that's why you find them a lot in rural places and things like that. Okay? Okay, so let's move on. So opening a bank account, you go to a bank. Okay, you talk to a bank teller. The bank teller will ask you for your name, date of birth, your address, your job if you have one. You must also show 2 pieces of ID, which must be original copies. The bank may also want to check your credit history, which tells the bank if you pay your bills on time and if you owe money. However, okay, and this is why it's important. We're going to talk next week about credit. However, they can't refuse you to open up an account because you have a poor credit rating. Okay, so anybody can actually open up an account. Now, they don't have to lend you any money. No, that's the other part of it. Okay, so if you go in for a loan, they're going to check your credit history. If your credit is not good, guess what? You're not getting the loan. Okay, the bank teller will give you an account number for your account. And if you have more than one account, like a checking and savings, it'll be 2 different numbers. Okay, once your account is open, you'll receive a bank card, which can either be a debit card or an access card. And you can use your bank card at the bank teller, at a bank machine, or a direct payment machine, such as in a store. The bank teller will tell you to choose a PIN. Okay, we all know this, usually 4 to 6 numbers. And you shouldn't give your PIN to anybody, okay? Including your wife or husband. Don't say I told you that.
I was expecting
Too late, right? Okay. Making deposits and withdrawals. Okay, you can deposit it you can deposit cash or checks into your bank account at the bank teller, an ATM, and checks can now be deposited electronically. So, yeah, things have come a long way, so you don't even have to go to the bank anymore. When you deposit a check, you should write deposit only and your account number on the back of the check. You must endorse, which means sign the back of the check. And banks can choose to put a hold on the money from your check, which means that you may have to wait up to 7 business days before you can use the money from your check. the bank puts a hold on money until the check clears, which is when the bank knows that there is enough money in the other account to pay the check. So this is important because what that means is that you can't have access to your money until they know that the check is good from the other bank. Okay? So a hold can be anywhere from 5 days to 10 days. If it's international check, you're waiting over a month. Okay? Direct deposits. Direct deposits are an increasingly common form of payment, usually when it comes to government and places of employment. This means that your money will be directly deposited into your bank account and you will not receive a check. To set up direct deposit, you need to give your bank account information, which can be found through the online banking or by visiting your bank to receive the banking account form. So most employers use this now, right? It's automatically put into your bank on the 15th of the month and the end of the month type of thing. Okay? Making withdrawals, you can withdraw your money at the teller or at the bank machine. However, you may have to pay a fee to withdraw money from a bank machine. So you need to know this. If you're going to another bank that you don't bank with, that bank will charge you a fee. Now, again, if you don't care about that, no one else will. Okay? But those fees can be anywhere from $4 to $10. If you're in the States, you're paying the US, which is another 40 to 45% on top of that. Okay? It can add up. At some banks, the teller fills out a withdrawal slip. The teller writes how much money you are withdrawing on the slip and you sign it. At other banks, the teller will ask you to swipe the card and enter your PIN in there. Okay? Then you have what's called pre-authorized debits. So you can use this to pay for some of your bills. For example, utility bills. It's an agreement you make with a company to take money of your account in the future. Okay? Now again, this is good because it makes things easier. You'll never have a late fee because it's coming out. Okay? But what's the caution there? Exactly. If you're not looking at your bank statement, okay, I've had this happen to me numerous times. Because guess what? Who works at some of those places that taking money out of your account? People. Do people make mistakes?
I think there's two factors. It could be overcharged, and also if you're not watching that account, there's no money in it and they do a withdrawal for a bill.
Yep.
That's another fine too.
Exactly.
Overdrawing, right?
Yeah, because if you're thinking that, oh, I've got enough money, but they're not doing it, or they do it, then you're going to get charged from your bank too. This all gets down to, we've made it so easy for us to spend money, right? We love technology, right? All of us love technology because it's so easy. You just swipe, right? But there's a danger to that. You have no control or less control, or you take for granted the control, and that's where you lose your money. Use what? I use pre-authorized payment mainly because in the past, if I forget to make the payment, then I get charged a late fee. Having said that, I still check my bank statement to make sure that the payments were right. Sometimes they take it out twice. If you're not looking at that, guess what? Okay? So that's why I'm saying that, when it comes to banking, it seems like it's basic, but there's some basic things that we don't look at that can cost us money. Okay? Again, pre-authorized debits that you have every month, like a loan payment, a utility bill, or a gym membership. So this is what I'm saying. People like the convenience because they put everything on pre-authorized debit. So what do most people do? They join a gym, right? Especially at the beginning of the year. They get on pre-authorized payment and whatever's coming out, let's say $50 a month. And then guess what? March comes and you're not going to the gym anymore. And then what do? You tell the person at the gym, I want to cancel. but then you don't check your bank statement for a year. Guess what's happening? That gym is still charging you $50 a month, and you're not getting in shape. It's a double whammy.
Depends on the shape you're looking at.
Yeah, the shape you're looking at, exactly. But my point being is that you got to follow through. Convenience is great. Now, make sure that you're not being shortchanged. And again, the company will take the account out based on the agreement. Okay, starting a pre-authorized debit, you can give your account information to the biller on a form or with a void check. Never give your account information unless you have a written agreement for the service. Make sure you get a copy of the agreement. Again, don't give out your PIN. The biller must tell you how much you will pay at least 10 days before the payment. If you change banks or change accounts, you need to give the new information to the biller. Obviously, you have a responsibility there. Okay? If you want to cancel a pre-authorized debit, this is important. Tell the biller in writing and keep a copy. So you can't do it over the phone. Okay? You got to do it in writing, includes email. Okay? But then check to make sure that it's not longer coming out. Okay. Problems with pre-authorized debit. If debits continue after you canceled your agreement with the biller, you can get your money back. Also, if there's a pre-authorized debit on your account that is wrong, you can get your money back. Wrong pre-authorized debits can happen by mistake or because of fraud. To get your money back, you must tell the bank within 90 days of the debit. That's why it's important to check, again, your bank statement monthly. You must also sign a form to say that the pre-authorized debit is wrong or that you have canceled your agreement with the biller. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. It's 8:10. There's snacks. You want to make your way back and we'll get going? Okay, let's talk about direct payments. So direct payments, you can pay for things that you buy at the store, gas station, other places by direct payment with your bank card and PIN. So direct payment is the same as using money, but you don't have to carry cash with you, but you must have enough money in your account to pay for what you buy. Okay? So most common question we get is it better to pay with a debit card or credit? Any thoughts? Debit? Tell me why.
Credit card would still be outside left of even a credit card. So I would never because you have that money, that's what you use to pay.
Okay, so yeah, just like it's like carrying cash. Okay. Anybody else have any other ideas? Credit what? Yeah, why? Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So if you think about it, when you use a debit card, it's like it says, it's like cash. You're paying, the money is coming out of your account as you swipe the card with your debit card. People like it because it's what? Convenient. Okay? Be careful about when something is convenient. A credit card, on the other hand, okay, if you think about it, when you put something on a credit card, and we're going to talk about that next week when we talk about credit. When you put something on a credit card, does that come out of your account right away? No. It usually comes on the next billing cycle, which could be anywhere from 15 to 25 days. Okay? Which means that you're making interest on the money in your account, in your savings account, rather than the bank having your money. So again, it's a personal choice, but if you don't pay your credit card off, okay, this is the downside of using the credit card company's money. If you don't pay your credit card off the whole balance, you're paying interest of anywhere from 18% to 26, 27%, depending on the credit card. Okay, and this is where people get into debt. So people that can't control their money, then you might want to use debit for a while until you can. But if you know how to manage your money, the credit card is actually, you're using the credit card's company's money for a month. Okay? Again, personal choice, convenience.
Maybe it's silly, but whenever I use my debit card, and I mean, I do appreciate the amount and everything, but it feels that I pay twice because I have to pay it off. And it's great, I try to pay it off right away
Yeah.
using my checking account, right? But sometimes, one time I forgot and
Yeah.
was punished.
But again, that's the downside, right? It's a double-edged sword. Okay? But when I counsel people, because I talk to some people that have some financial issues, until they can get a good budget and manage their money, maybe a debit card is the way to go. But once you control your money, okay, A credit card, for many other reasons, is the way to go, as long as you pay off the balance every month. Okay? Okay, most stores don't charge a fee for direct payment. If the store charges this fee, the direct payment machine will ask you if you want to pay the fee. Okay, so what are the dangers of debit cards? Fraud protection. If your wallet falls in the wrong hands, your debit card's fraud protection isn't as strong as a credit card. Almost all credit cards come with zero liability fraud protection. Another reason why credit cards are more superior than debit. The same can be said for using your debit card, and the exact rules vary from bank to bank, and in some cases you may never recover your money because it is like cash. Okay? Finally, a thief uses your credit card. You can withhold payment for the charges until your credit card investigates the suspected fraud. This has happened to me numerous times where, I've lost my credit card, lost my wallet. I phone the credit card company right away. They stop it. Okay? The other thing the credit card companies do is that they have their own checks. So sometimes I'll get an email or a text saying, do you authorize this charge of $178 from Spain? And I'm looking at where I am, and I'm in Fort McMurray, and I'm saying no, right? So credit card companies have become really good at that over the years, which is another layer of protection for you, right? Which is good, okay? The second reason why you want to use a credit card is, and not a debit card, is when you're using debit, you don't build any credit. Because when you go for a loan and they look at your history, there's no credit card that they can say, well, Yulia paid off her credit card as agreed by the terms. Okay, so you're not building up credit. So when I talk to young kids, especially, even with my son, okay, he's 19 years old, get a credit card, put on a few charges every month, and then make sure you pay off that credit card. Because eventually you're going to be going in for a loan for a car, your mortgage, and if you can show that history, you've built up credit. People that use debit cards all the time, guess what? You may not get a loan, or they might charge you a higher interest because they don't have any credit history on you, okay? So another reason to go credit versus debit. Merchant disputes, this is very similar, okay? Let's say you go to a fast food restaurant and buy lunch with your debit card for $6.59. They accidentally charge you $65.90, $6,590. You decline a receipt, so you never notice the mistake until you use a debit card. That happened to me. I use this example all the time. I bought a Subway sandwich, okay? $12.99. And then they asked for the tip, and I hate that because you didn't deliver it to me. I went there. I even had to tell you what I wanted on the sandwich, and I put 0, but when I got my bill, I actually gave them a $99 tip. Well, I went back to Subway, okay, and I showed them. It was on my credit card. They reversed it. Okay. I don't know if that would happen if you did it on a debit. Okay. And then fees. If you use a debit card for most of your purchases, you need to be extremely diligent about keeping track of your account balance. If you overcharge by a few dollars or even a few hundred, your card may not be declined, but the bank may allow your charge to go through and then hit you with an overdraft fee ranging from $25 to $40. So it might go through while you do the debit transaction, but because you've overdrawn and you don't have what's called overdraft banking, which we'll talk about, protection, they're going to charge you a fee. Okay? So those are some of the reasons.
So does a line of credit, does that count as a credit card, or is it something different?
No, but a line of credit, good question, shows up on your credit history. And if you take money out of your line of credit and you pay that, it shows that you're making your payment. So when you go for a loan, for example, they're going to look at that. Okay? Yeah. We'll talk about that when we talk about credit. Okay? Some stores will let you get cash back without a fee when you use direct payment. Again, cash back means that you add extra money, such as $40 to the payment, and the store will give the money in cash. You save money on bank fees because you pay for your purchase and you make a withdrawal from your account with one transaction instead of two. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about checks. You know, some people still use checks. You can use checks to pay bills by mail, to pay for larger amounts like rent, buying furniture. You keep a record that you paid, okay? You can pay at places that don't take credit cards or direct payment, but I mean, most places are taking that, okay? If you write a check and then you change your mind because there's a problem with what you paid for, tell the bank to stop payment on the check, but they will charge you a fee. Okay, individuals that have checks, they have what's called a check register. This is typically just a small book where you write down what the check, the amount, the date, the number, who it went through. Never sign a blank check. Anyone can fill out the check and take money from your bank. So let's talk about different types of checks. NSF stands for not sufficient funds, which happens when you don't have enough money in your account to pay a check, for the check, sorry. So when you write a check, let's say for $1,000 and you only have 900 in your account, okay? What happens is the bank says you don't have enough. It's NSF check, and they'll charge you a fee. Post-dated checks are checks that you write for into the future. So if sometimes as a landlord, I get 12 post-dated checks from my tenants, the ones that don't want to use Interac. Okay, so they give me 12 checks for the first of the month for the next year. I can cash those before that date, but it's post-dated and I keep it, and then every month I go and I put it into the bank. Okay, that's called a post-dated check. And then you get what's called certified checks. A certified check means that the bank guarantees that it will be paid. When you get a certified check from the bank, the money is taken from your account right away. So what happens is that, let's say you want to buy a car from someone. That person will say, I'd like a certified check. Because if I write a check, it could bounce. So that person wants a certified check. I go to the bank. I have to pay $750 charge. They write out the check to that person's name. The money comes out of my account right away. Okay? I go and I give it to the person that I buy the car from. Okay? Now, the interesting thing now is that even that guy, when he goes to the bank will put a hold on that certified check, even though it's already come out of my account. So he's waiting now 7 days for his money. Okay? So certified checks are supposed to be like cash but now banks, they do this on purpose. They hold it on the other end. Okay? But sometimes you'll be asked to provide a certified check. So that's what that is. Okay? Let's talk about ATMs. An ATM changed our life, didn't it? A bank machine is called an ATM or an ABM. You put your bank card in the machine, enter your PIN. When using the machine, make sure that you cover yourself from anybody else so they don't see your PIN. Now there's scams where you may have heard of this, where they put readers into the ATM. You go in, you do your transaction, the scammer comes, picks up that reader, and now has all your information. Okay? That happens more at, these little ATMs that you find in like wherever, in a grocery store or a 7-Eleven. It doesn't happen in the banks because the banks have obviously cameras and better, but these standalone ATMs, try not to use them, okay? Because you don't know what's happening there, okay? If you keep making mistakes, the machine may not let you try again. The machine takes the card, and in case your card was stolen and someone is trying to guess the PIN, yeah, so some places, this has happened to me, out of town, put in the card, maybe the PIN wasn't right, the card doesn't come out. Then you got to go to the bank the next day. So very frustrating, especially if it happens out of the country. So let's talk about fees here, because this is again where banks make their money. You can withdraw money from most bank machines, but you can only deposit money, transfer money, pay bills, and check your account at the bank machines owned by your bank. If you use a bank machine that is not owned by your bank, you usually pay a fee. You'll notice that when you withdraw money, you must enter multiples of 20. Now, of course, they have just the fast cash button because it's too complicated to actually type in 10 or 20 or 40. So you just, I'll take 300 out. Push one button, 300 comes out. When you withdraw cash, count the money at the machine and put the money away before you leave. Okay, paying bills. You can pay bills at the bank machine. You can register the bills at the bank, take the bills you want to pay to the bank, ask the teller to register the numbers. Most people, again, are paying bills online nowadays, right? Through direct payment. Pre-authorized payment, sorry. Deposits. If you're depositing checks or cash, you must enter the total amount you're depositing. Okay, we talked about this. Okay, again, safety tip. Remember to take your card and receipt from the bank machine with you. If something on the bank machine looks strange or different, don't use that bank machine. Again, I know people don't want to keep paper, but whenever you make a transaction, whether it's credit card, direct payment, keep the receipt. That's your only protection to go back if you even check again your credit card statement. Okay? Most people don't do that. Okay, let's talk about money transfers. A lot of people use this nowadays, which is very convenient. Many banks have a service called Interac Money Transfers, e-transfers, where you can transfer money to an account at a different bank in Canada by email. To do this, you need to have an email address and an online banking account, and the recipient of the transfer must also have an email address and an online banking account. So the thing to remember is that Interac is not the bank. It's a different company. Okay? That's why when you look at the menu, it's actually you're going into a different company. Okay, let's talk about money orders and bank drafts. Two methods of transferring money is through money orders and bank drafts. Money orders can be purchased from Canada Post, and bank drafts can be purchased from your bank. So a bank draft is very similar to a certified check. Okay, when you get a bank draft, the money again is coming out of your account right away, and you make that bank draft to whoever it's payable to. Okay. Both of these money transfer methods are similar to certified checks. We just talked that. Okay, let's talk about the whole point of this lesson is monitoring your account. Okay, every month it is important for you to look at the bank statement and online account information to see that all the transactions are correct. If you wrote any checks that month, your bank statement will show the check number, checks which were paid from your account, And it's also important to look over any direct deposits and pre-authorized debits that were made that month. If there are mistakes, tell the bank right away. So this is where you need to understand, okay, it's nice to get everything in order, have pre-authorized payments, have your direct deposit, all that stuff coming in, but you got to check now your statement. Okay, you should also monitor any bank fees that have come in from transactions or have changed or that are charged monthly. One way to manage bank fees is to plan your transactions, such as planning to make one large transaction rather than a few small ones. If you're paying extra fees, look into the details of your bank accounts. It may be less expensive to change your account so that more transactions are included in the monthly fee. So this is where I want you to get into what is your bank account, what's included in it, what's not included, so that you can meet your needs. Because most of us, I don't know about you, but whenever I've opened up a bank account, they give you all this information. We talked about, tons of information you just sign. You don't even know what you're signing, okay? So if you don't understand how fees are affecting your account, you need to go to your bank and ask. Because you may be paying more fees than you really need to. Or you may have an account that doesn't meet your needs because you have more transactions than what your bank account allows for, right? Yeah, if you're unhappy with your fees from a bank, you can look at opening a bank at a different account, but most of the time they have all the accounts there. All the banks are the same. They offer the same type of accounts. It's having the best account that meets your needs. Okay, let's talk about telephone banking. Okay, when you open up an account, you can also register for telephone banking. You can also register the account numbers of the bills you want to pay by phone. To use telephone banking, you will need a bank card and an access number. Okay. The way it works is that you go and you call the telephone banking number. You'll be prompted to enter your bank card. Okay, the telephone banking machine will tell you to enter the access number. Okay, once you connect to the telephone banking number, you can pay the bills, transfer money, check your account balance, and listen to a list of recent transactions. You can also use telephone banking number to talk to a banking representative. People use telephone banking? No. Almost never, right? Yeah. Old technology, and when it first came out, you may have used it, but most people, it's all online. Yeah, I've used it a few times, I remember. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about what we're using now. Internet banking, also called online banking or electronic banking. Okay, to start internet banking, you will need a bank card and a password from your bank. Similar to telephone banking, you go online, you enter a password, you log in, okay? Once you're logged in, you can pay your bills, make transfers, and the rest. Okay. Here's a safety tip. Always look for the closed lock and unbroken symbol on your browser before you log in or by entering your bank card number or username or password. If you see that, then it's secure, right? Okay. If you don't see that, it could be a scam. So a lot of scammers, they'll go and they'll put CIBC online banking, and they'll, instead of putting a K at the end, or a bank, they'll put a C, and you won't see it, and it's a scam. And if you put your information in there, now they've got your information. So make sure that there's a closed lock or unbroken key in the browser. Okay? So let's look at an example of a secure web connection. You'll see the closed lock there. Okay? Let's talk about problems with banking. If you have a problem at your bank or trust company, you can follow the following steps. It's important, obviously, to keep written records on conversations you're having. Also, if you don't have the backup, again, the slips and that, it's going to make it very, very difficult for you. Record details of who you spoke to, okay? Solving an issue with the bank, okay? Explain your problem with the staff at the branch. You can ask to talk to a supervisor or manager. If the branch staff doesn't fix the problem, ask them for their brochure about complaints. Okay, if you still have a problem, there's what's called an ombudsman, okay, who doesn't work for the bank, and they look at all these kind of issues. Okay, but usually it gets resolved at the banking level. Okay. Okay. Let's pass out your assignment. There's two for you guys. Yep. Okay. So like I said, the banking assignment is pretty basic. Let's quickly go through this. The first one, easy question. Then what I want you to do for question number 2 is pick any of the chartered banks, so any of the 5. Tell me how long they've been a bank, how many branches they have across Canada, and what kind of services they provide. Then I want you to get into understanding your bank account. So to do this, who do you bank with? Don't give me your banking account number, okay? Unless you really want to.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes. Why did you choose the bank? What kind of account is it? And what are the features of the account? So you might have to do some homework. You might even have to call the bank, heaven forbid. Okay? Question number 4, how do you cancel? The 4 dangers, that's all in there. 6, we just talked about. Question number 7 has to do with the next page. So go to the next page. There's a Scotiabank bank statement. I want you to read it and answer the few questions on that. And then number 8, name 2 things you've learned from the banking lesson of tonight. And then number 9, more importantly, what actions or steps will you take because of what you learned? Okay, so that's the banking assignment. And then doing your in tune with financial literacy. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, did we learn anything tonight?
Yes.
Good. So if you learn one thing, hopefully it's more than one thing, every class, you'll know 8 new things by the end of the program. Okay,
I have a quick question about
yes,
holds on check.
yes,
So my dad gave me a check for some stuff that I bought for him.
right.
I used my phone to deposit the check, and I was told 7 days until the funds clear.
Right.
After 2 days, I got an email saying, congratulations, your funds are clear. However, you still have a hold for another 5 days.
Why is that? So even though it's cleared,
I have an email saying stay clear.
I would call the bank and saying, okay, that doesn't make sense. You're telling me that it's cleared, so you've reduced your risk. This is where banks get into bureaucracy. But if they have enough time to tell you that it's cleared, I don't understand. One last thing. I'm going to leave you my phone number. 780-804-7790. If you have any questions, don't call after 11. And between 11 p.m. and 5, okay? In the morning, don't call me.